Okay. Well, welcome everybody to our sync session this morning. Probably wondering what's a sync session. So actually, I need to, again, pull you guys over here. I do apologize. I'll kind of get it over here. So a sync session is a way for you guys to hopefully connect with your HR team a little bit more and us to keep you updated on the happenings and things that are going on in technologies, standard operating procedures, maybe new policies, and try to get some time where we can really talk and share and have you guys ask questions with us. So these are short 30-minute segments. We promise we'll get out of here in 30 minutes. And if you have more questions, you can ask us later. But it's just the time for us to really connect. So you're going to see one from employee relations. That's John and me today. We handle a lot of our employee relations within the company. So John and I will be talking today. We will have payroll and benefits, doing presentations throughout the month, safety and wellness, and then recruiting. So we hope you join us. These will be some weekly sessions, short 30-minute sessions that you can pop into, hopefully get a lot of information, and ask us a lot of questions that you guys want to talk about. So as we get started this morning, first, I told you about the 100 points if you turn your camera on this morning, because John and I really like to meet and greet and talk with you guys. And even my whole team, I think a bunch of them are on this morning. We love to see your smiling faces, or just know that there's just not a black screen out there. It's so nice to actually see people and be able to engage, because part of this time is to talk and engage and just have some fun. However, if you guys are bold enough to ask a question in the session today, we will give you 200 work tango points, because we know it's hard to not be shy and ask that question. I promise you, if you're asking the question, there are 3 to 5 other people who wanted to know it anyway. So you're not the only one out there. So if you are bold today, you can put questions in the chats. Christy's going to kind of watch our chat today for us. That would be great. See anything in there. Or again, if you get off your mic and ask us a question, when we do questions, we will give you 200 points. So you can earn 300 points today if you so choose. Now, I don't know, I didn't see a bunch of people dancing, but I think I know I earned some points this morning and I'm all sweaty, so. All right, well, welcome, John. John, we'll be tossing this back and forth today. Hi, John.
Hello.
So John and I will kind of be tossing this back and forth as we talk to you today. And it's a really time for a good discussion. So we are going to be talking about the disciplinary process and what do I do if these certain things happen while I'm working on site. So part of our disciplinary process, you'll find that in SOP 425, but it's our corrective action, for our company is really focused on working with individuals to create communication, create understanding, create clear expectations so that everyone knows what is expected of them on a daily basis. So a reason we would take correction action is if we have not seen things that we've already clearly communicated to an employee, and then we would take these steps. So any correction action, we really want to be prompt, direct, uniform, impartial, and fact-based. So those are 2 very, very important, qualities. And that's why we actually have the standard operating procedure, so that you guys can refer back to those and say, what are these things that, one, I need to communicate to my employees so that they're able to, be accountable and do all of these things, but that exactly what is being expected and what is not being done. So I'm kind of going off script here, guys. So, but we'll send you this presentation also. Okay, so the disciplinary process or taking corrective action can take a lot of different forms. You could do a verbal warning or what we call a coaching conversation. And really, this is where you discuss with your employee the nature of the problem, go through policies and procedures, probably refer back to the standard of operating procedure you're referring to, or something within the job description or on your guys' task list that you may have done. This is something you'll want to document with the employee. It's not, you don't have to have like an official Word document, and there's not an official form for it. So you can really just send hr@sullivan.com an email saying, hey, I reviewed this with Lisa. Lisa, just because I can see your face, I'll use you. I'm sorry. I reviewed this with Lisa today. Here are the things that we discussed. You can send a copy to your employee and then send a copy to hr@sullivan.com. And do that within like 5 business days after you have you had the conversation. Now, if you're moving to a written reprimand, we do have a more of a formal process for that. where this is maybe something that involves a violation of performance or a conduct or a policy. And we're outlining things that need to happen within a certain time frame, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week. We generally never usually go beyond 4 weeks. Our standard is kind of 2, depending on what that action may be. This is something you can find a form on UKG or within UKG. It's also in the SOPs under 425. I think it's 425, that's right, 425. You can download that form, write what you would like that you are planned to talk about with the employee. Send that to hr@selden.com, and then we will review it. We will add in some SOPs. We will, add in things that we feel necessary for that. Talk through it with you on maybe how to conduct this, but that is a more formal process that does have to be approved by HR. So we just want to kind of show you the 2 different things. So we have the coaching conversation, which you can have with your employees, document in a simple email, here's what we talked about, and with the employee, and then the written reprimand. We also have suspensions with and without pay and terminations of employment. Any type of a suspension would need to be reviewed, with your regional manager or with HR, and any termination does need to be approved by HR. So those are things you would send in and just say, I'm requesting termination, for this reason. I've given this written warning or this, and then we will review that and get back to you with any suggestions or options that we can review. So that's kind of the overall process. Let's see, if you're unsure whether to provide a coaching or issue a reprimand, don't hesitate to seek advice from your supervisor or HR. We're happy to help you with coming up with options and thinking through things. We do encourage you to go directly to your supervisors. They're probably more aware of, your property and your site and what's going on and the expectations of your KPIs and your ownership, but we are also happy to lend that support and help you make the best decision. If it is a reprimand, remember, complete the form, submit it to HR before delivery. So a written reprimand does need to be submitted before you give it to the employee. So that's just a little distinction there. And then we always say, talk about who should sit in during the meeting. Should it be you and your supervisor? Should it be you and HR? And we're happy to talk through that with you, but really, sorry, can you guys still hear me? I had a little mic.
We
glitch.
can,
Okay,
we can now.
Okay, sorry. I had a little mic glitch come up. And then set aside time to discuss the issue with the employee in private. I know your guys' offices are sometimes a little bit busy and you can have in and out times. Maybe you take the conversation offsite. Maybe you do it in an area where you don't have maybe residents coming in all the time, but take the time when you have time to really explain and discuss the issues that you're seeing and the concerns that you're seeing and how to take those corrective steps. All right, so I am going to turn this over to John, and he's going to talk about what are the next steps in each of the following scenarios and kind of practicing and walking through, some of the common things that we see and some of the next steps to take in those areas. And then again, feel free to, jump in and ask questions anytime.
Good morning, everybody. We've got a few different scenarios that we'll kind of walk through this morning. We'll cover a handful due to the time of the training sessions, but we'll send this out and it's got a few additionals as well. And as Charity said, anytime you guys have questions, please feel more than free to reach out and ask. Employee no call, no show. So the process is, notify HR on that first day. Hey, John didn't come into work today, and we haven't heard from him. We'll take steps to try and reach out to the employee, reach out to their emergency contact, and see if we can figure out what might be happening with that person. If they do not respond, and we've tried a couple of times during that 3-day period, we will move to termination for job abandonment. You might wonder why we wait 3 days to do so. A lot of things can come up, right? We're human, accidents happen, could be hospitalization, could be incarceration, could be a number of things. And we don't want to jump. We want to kind of grant the assumption of goodwill to the employee to find out what's taken place. Let's say we reach out and the employee does respond back to us, but really doesn't have an acceptable reason for not calling or not showing up for work, and isn't protected under an FMLA or ADA type situation, we will go ahead and move to termination at that point. Can you flip the screen, Charity? All right. Employee is late for work at least once per week. Okay. So first thing we want to do is consider the sea of possibilities. We're going to cover this. Does anybody know what the sea of possibilities is, what that stands for? Shout it out. Okay. Good thing we're going to cover it later then. It's if someone is regularly late for work, it's probably, and there's not a legitimate reason for that happening, we should probably be moving directly to a written reprimand. So draft up the reprimand, send it to HR for review, deliver the reprimand based on some of the notes that Charity covered earlier. And when it's an effort situation, like showing up to work on time, we really do look for immediate improvement. One thing that's been kind of updated that we will be looking at with late arrivals or missed work is if that employee following the reprimand shows up late again in the next 90 days, we're going to move to immediate termination. We really do expect the effort to be there. If they've gone 90 days and they've been on time, but then this issue kind of starts flaring up again, we're gonna use the goodbye to option B, performance management. And Charity, are we covering the goodbye to option B as well as sea of possibilities? I think I'm losing you. So goodbye to option B is when you've had a recurring issue happening, and we maybe are talking to you about this goodbye to option B tactic. It's sitting down with the employee and say, we've got three choices moving forward. Option A is that you make significant and consistent efforts to improve in this with this concern. Maybe it's being late for work. Option B is we just kind of continue as we are. We talk about it. It gets better for a while, then it falls back again. And option C is we separate amicably, and with the realization that this maybe is not the best fit for you in this role. And we don't need an answer right now. Think about option, as of now, we're taking option B off the table, right? Think about it overnight. Think about option A. Think about option C. I will support you 100% with that, whichever you choose. If you want to improve, we'll give every effort to help you improve. If you want to move on, whether that's inside or outside of Selden, I'm going to support you and help you do that as well. So, please note, if you're talking to someone about late arrivals or absenteeism, listen for and be aware of kind of trigger words. Okay. Are there, hey, I'm on my new medication. I'm really drowsy in the morning, or I'm helping a family member with an illness or something along that lines. If there's something kind of medically or caring for the person or someone in their family, just put a halt to the conversation. Say, this sounds like, some information that human resources might be able to assist with and share information. So I'm going to provide this to human resource and let them reach out to you and move forward. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Um, another scenario, the employee is not following behavioral expectations, right? If somebody, if it's a performance issue, it's usually pretty easy to quantify. If you've hired me to build 10 widgets a day and I'm building four, I'm not quite meeting your standard, right? It's it's a little bit more difficult sometimes to say, um, your teamwork's not there, or attitude's not there, or kind of your willingness is not there, or you find yourself working harder to make the employees successful than they're trying to be successful themselves. Those are harder to quantify and sometimes can be challenging to talk about. I come in the morning. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the Muppet Show, but the Muppets had some old guys up in the theater, and they were always grumpy and grouchy. And I walk in, and Charity says, "You're being a Muppet," and I'm like, "Okay, I got you. I got you." um, that's her coaching method for me. um, so the best thing to do, and hopefully everybody's doing this right from the get-go, right from a new hire and through the onboarding process, you're covering behavioral expectations. I also hope that, during team meetings, you're bringing up behavioral expectations, because with anything, the more we talk about something, the more aware all of us are, the more emphasis that's going to be on what's being talked about, and we all start building it into our routine. So that's hopefully the happening already. But if you're noticing some of these behaviors not showing up or inconsistent, first thing to do is sit down and coach that employee. And I would print out the behavioral expectations and cover each one and really describe what does this mean in our culture, in our environment. What am I looking for? Describing the gap, right? Here's our expectations. This is what we need every day, and this is what I'm seeing. You know, what do you think about that? Why do you think there's a gap? Asking for their feedback and listening. Is there a valid reason as to what's going on? Maybe you're going to learn, they're battling something really significant, or their family member, or um, they're going through some sort of difficulty that then we can turn around and offer the AAP, uh, maybe uh, maybe a flex schedule to help them a little bit, and showing a little bit of empathy to the situation, to help them get back to the behavior that they were in before, or that we expect. Showing empathy does not mean you're being weak. Showing empathy does not mean you're lowering your standards. It just shows you care about the people that you're working with. And we are in the people business, right? Um, so if there is not legitimate reasons or valid reasons for that, documenting the conversation. And with coaching conversations, we look for that kind of summary of the conversation, not only for HR, but to be sent back to the employee just for clarity purposes, right? We talked about this. This is where our expectations are, and let's move forward together.
Hey, John, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Nope.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just due to time, because we only have like 10 minutes left, we have a lot of good stuff to cover here.
So
yeah.
Speed it up.
Well, no. I was going to say, I'd like to get to the SIA possibilities, just to explain that, because I think if you don't know about that slide, these, employee failed to respond to on-call, reasonable suspicion. We kind of walk you through sleeping on the job, not meeting KPIs, some other performance things that we want to send out to you. And again, very, very similar, but kind of maybe goes into a little bit different on what you can do with that employee. And so those are there, but John, I just wanted you to take the opportunity to explain the SIA possibilities, and then we'll go into questions just for time's sake.
All right. Sounds good. That's weird that I'm going long and talking. So the SIA possibilities. You should really look whenever you're not seeing the results that you want, the behavior that you want. Think about the C. S, skill or knowledge. Do they have the skill or knowledge to do the job that they were hired to do? If not, let's build a plan with them. Let's be patient. Let's provide training. What assistance can we get? Can I get them a mentor, a peer coach? What training is involved? And be patient. Let them try and build that skill and see if that works. Is it an effort? Okay. You're going to be a little bit more direct with an effort. There's a little bit less patience. This is that person that's coming in late, every 3 or 4 days, doesn't really have a good reason, or it's kind of a direct conversation where we need to change this behavior immediately. Or is it an ability, right? Did I get in this role and I just don't have the ability to do it? I might be a good employee, but this is not the right fit. So do we need to look at kind of a better fit for me? So every time you've got an employee concern, think about, what is this? Is this a skill? Is it effort? Is it an ability situation? And then you can react accordingly.
All right. And again, I'm going to skip some of these just because I'd love to get to questions. Plus, you get to earn points for questions. So that's even more important. We want to hear from you. But, again, really just give the employee a chance to talk and listen to them whenever you're going through these things. Make sure expectations are clear as you move forward. Explain what will happen if the expectations are not met. Set a time to follow up. That's a really important thing we want to remind you guys. If you're having a coaching conversation or doing a reprimand, or even just talking, with your employee that's not in a coaching conversation, you feel like you need to follow up, always follow up. And then, not taking action is an action. So if you choose not to address things and not to, not to talk about these things and really work on that transparent communication, not doing it is also an action on your part. So we just want to encourage you to really get involved and talk through these things. And then why do we do coachings and reprimands? Well, it's to raise the level of performance, right? It's to say, hey, we're seeing this, we want to help, aid, train, go over that, SIA possibilities, but it's always to get us striving for excellence and to challenge the person in whatever area, or to aid the person if they are struggling with something. And it's to, they might have blind spots or some deficiencies that they're not aware of or not seeing, especially when we get into behavior expectations. And so those are great things that we can work with employees on. It is corrective action is always to provide support, resources, and the training needed. It's not just a check off list for the next step in a termination. We really use these annual reviews, corrective actions, coaching moments to take time with the employee to really see what support, resources, and training that they need to really help them be successful in their job. We want to create paths of success for all of our employees and making sure that we've taken the time to do that. And so, okay, that is kind of the end of the presentation. We've got like a few minutes. We want to keep these on time for you guys. So what questions do you have?
Charity, we did get a question from Denise earlier. I want to make sure she gets her points. She was curious if there was a form for that informal write-up. So I thought maybe you could touch base on that.
Yeah, and so what we call is the verbal or coaching conversation, there is not a specific form for that. What we really encourage you to do is, look at whatever SOP or on the job description or in the behavioral expectations, anything in there, what is that employee not doing? So if it's attendance, right? Documenting, hey, you've been late for these days, and just having that conversation and then sending that to HR. Could be in a summary. We say email again, so that you can maybe forward that on to your employees so that they understand, like, hey, just want to, we talked about this. I'll be following up with you in a few weeks. Here are the expectations as we move forward. And then you can forward that to hr@selden.com, and then we will document that. So can be very simple. It doesn't have to be super lengthy. It's what was the concern? What did I address? And then what are the expectations? And then what is the follow-up? If you want to kind of think of it like that, I think of it like concern, like what brought me here, and then going through those things. Good question. All right. Who else has questions? 200 points.
Kim is requesting that we send a list of the behavioral expectations when we send out that slide presentation. So if we could add that in, that would be great.
Yeah, and that is also in like SOP in the employee handbook. It's one of the first ones there. If you go into the employee handbook, it says mission, vision, and then all of the behavior expectations are listed there too. So, but we will send it out, but it is in your SOPs. If you just type in behavior expectations in the search bar for the employee handbook, you will find it.
Yep. We have another question from Stacy. What do you suggest if an employee leaves property to go to the gas station, say? Or that's not necessarily on a lunch break or on a regular break. They're just kind of taking time out of the day to run and go maybe get something to drink or whatever, but they're not notifying the manager or the other team members.
I'll throw that over to John so you can answer some questions in here.
I would have a conversation with the individual to find out, why is there's a need to get a drink or something. We provide breaks, educate them on our breaks and lunch schedule, and outside of those periods, we should be staying on property and available to our residents and the needs. So trying to work out maybe a break schedule with this individual and see if they stick to that. If not, we would accelerate it.
John, and Kelly's wanting to know, are the employees allowed to leave site during that 15-minute break time?
They are. A break is paid, so it's a situation where if something came up and I'm into a 5-minute break, and I'm needed to come back, I need to be able to come back, where lunch, where you're clocked out, hey, I'm gone for this 30 minutes or 60 minutes or what have you. But breaks, you need to remain available to your job. So, but if Quick Trip's right across the street or whatever, and I'm grabbing a soda, I don't have a huge problem with that.
Great questions, guys. Anybody else? What if they clock out for lunch for an hour and then come back to the office and eat lunch? So they're clocked out, but they're eating in the office.
You want that, Charity?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I would say that's probably based on your individual setup. Like all of our offices are set up a lot, very, very different. So I eat at my desk, but I also don't have residents and guests and visitors and vendors, coming in. So I would say if you have an employee who's eating at their desk and maybe people are stopping by then and interrupting their lunch, that we would really encourage them to maybe go, set up a location or go to a location where they can eat that's not at their desk, where people might interact with them or ask them questions, interrupt their lunch, Or again, if you know, just kind of creating that, you know, mess and things. So I'd probably encourage them, depending on your office setup, on not, you know, not doing that. I don't know that we have a policy against it. So that is really, you know, kind of up to the individual sites on what you would recommend and how your office is set up. If their desk is like the first desk that greets people, you know, and they're eating over their lunch break and being like, hey, I'm on my lunch break, I can't help you, but they're at their desk. You know, we want to give great customer service. So that might not be the best option for them, for your site. So yeah.
Yeah, the point is they should not be working during that time, but
Yeah.
we do like the opportunity to provide them somewhere to eat. And I know that's hard in some of the community offices, but maybe help them find that spot where they're not going to be interrupted by, you know, people coming in or by residents asking them to do something. So the point is they can't be working during that time, but they should, you know, it's absolutely fine to be somewhere at the property, you know, eating. We don't expect them to have to leave. But maybe work together to find out, you know, and kind of identify a good location for that.
And it looks like they wanted to clarify that. So it looks like they're taking their lunch and then they're coming back and eating. So they're taking their lunch hour and then bringing their lunch back and eating. So I'm sorry, I misunderstood that question.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a great opportunity for maybe a coaching conversation, you know, and just sit down saying, hey, you know, I've noticed on this day and this day and this day, you've clocked out for lunch, but you've come back to your desk and we're actually eating. And I would just sit down and have a conversation with them and say, that's really not something we want to do. We really want you to take that time lunch break to eat and come back and be productive at work. So I would just have a coaching conversation and document it with them.
And again, it kind of depends on their role in what their job tasks are. Like if they're not, you know, dealing with the public at the time and they're able to do some work while they're doing that. Sometimes people have to run like to a medical appointment or do something quick on a lunch hour and they're going to come back and eat. Again, we've talked about for customer service standards that we shouldn't be eating in front of those coming into the office. But if they're, you know, someone in a back office that is not going to be engaging with outside folks, and they can do it kind of quickly, and it's not like a regular thing, you know, again, like Charity said, just to coach and kind of discuss what makes sense and making sure we're upholding customer service standards too.
Well, thank you, Cindy, and thank you guys so much. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry, did somebody? Cindy, did you have more on that? Oh, no. Okay. Hey, sorry, guys. I just want to be really mindful of your time and keeping these to, you know, great 30-minute sessions. We are happy to look at your questions. If you put something in the chat, we will get back to you. And, you know, if you did, we will give you those points because we do appreciate you guys engaging with us today. It's been super fun.